Hey guys, it's Trick here. This is a Windripper build on a budget. This build is designed to run low tier maps and to gain you a lot of currency. How that works is you just take a low tier map that you can run really fast that has a good layout. You put an alchemy orb on it and then you run the map. And you keep rinse and repeating this process over and over, and every time you run a map you will be gaining currency. And the more and more maps you run, the more currency you will accumulate, and you will become very rich if you keep doing this process over and over and over again. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the build and why it's so good at farming currency while I showcase the build in this map. Now, why is this build so good for farming currency? Well, we focus on two major things that help you increase your currency gains. One is movement speed. We focus on our movement speed by building our character around the Queen of the Forest. The more evasion you get with Queen of the Forest, the more movement speed you get, but it caps out at 45,000 evasion. So once you have 45,000 evasion, the more movements, you get all the benefits of Queen of the Forest. And then we focus on item quantity. Item quantity is very important because the more item quantity you have, the more currency will drop from the monsters, the more 6 sockets will drop from the monsters, and then you can vendor the 6 sockets for more currency. So this build makes you a lot of currency. And also we have Rampage on our belt, and Rampage, the more Rampage stacks you get, it increases your movement speed drastically. Your movement speed can go upwards from 250 movement speed up way past 300 movement speed, depending on how many stacks of Rampage you have. Our build has 250% movement, 250 movement speed, but with Rampage, it can get way over that. It can get way into the 300s. It can get 300 and above movement speed. So this build can farm maps really quickly. It has a lot of item quantity on it, so we get a lot of currency from the monsters. And we run the maps fast because we have a bunch of movement speed. And we just make a lot of currency with this character. This character is really good for farming currency. It's really good for farming low tier maps. It's just an all around really good character if you want to make a lot of currency. I've done this build in multiple leagues and it's a really good build. Let me go over some of the items that make this build pretty good. Firstly, Queen of the Forest is probably one of the most important items for this build because I was saying before, you get movement speed for stacking evasion. Once you get 45,000 evasion, you will reap all the benefits of Queen of the Forest and get all the movement speed from Queen of the Forest. Queen of the Forest is really, really good. Now we have the Windripper. The Windripper is good because it's a weapon that also has item quantity on the weapon. So it's very, very good, and it just makes us more currency. Here we have gloves, and we have these gloves because they have item quantity on them, and we want item quantity for the build. We have this belt. This belt is very good because it has Rampage and item quantity. Item quantity is good for the build. It has cold res that we need for the build, and also it has Rampage. Now Rampage is very important because Rampage increases your movement speed drastically the more stacks of Rampage you get. It is very, very, very good. If you can keep your Rampage up, you will have a lot of movement speed, and this character will zoom through maps and gain you a lot of currency. Here we have boots with item quantity and fire res. We get the boots because they have item quantity, and we also need the fire res, so that's always nice. Here we have a ring. It has item quantity on it and resistances. We need both of those things, but also why I like this ring and why I pick this ring over other item quantity rings is because it solves all of our mana problems and all of our life gain problems. This character will not die to anything because we shoot out so many projectiles that we will always be gaining life so fast with this ring, because this ring gives us 40 plus life gain on hit with our attacks, and we have a lot of attacks going out with Tornado Shot. Tornado Shot fires a bunch of projectiles. It keeps us alive and it keeps us healthy with this ring. The only thing that's really going to kill you on this build is probably a one shot. If you get one shot, you can't really defend against that. But if you're not getting one shot, this ring will probably save your life multiple times. Here we have an amulet. It just says item quantity. It's a shaper amulet. This build lacks lightning resistance, so we have lightning resistance on this amulet. This you also can get lightning resistance on your jewels. I have a little bit of resistance on my jewels. You can get some resistance in the skill tree. So it's up to you which path you want to take. You could copy this, or you could find your own way to get lightning resistance. I found the amulet was the best way for me. I got lightning resistance on my amulet. Then we have the quiver. The quiver, the only stat we really need and we really want is the increased arrow. Like, the extra arrow is so important for tornado shot, because this is a tornado shot build. And tornado shot, the more arrows tornado shot has, it increases the single target on tornado shot, and it also increases the clear speed on tornado shot. So it'll be clearing a lot faster, your single target will be a lot faster. It's just all around the best thing you could possibly do for a tornado shot is to get an extra projectile. Anything that increases tornado shot's projectiles is very, very, very good for the build. Here, like I was saying with the quiver, the only stat we need on here is the tornado shot enchant. Ignore all the stats on the helmet. You don't need any of the stats on the helmet. The only thing you need is that enchant. So it's very important to get this enchant on any helmet that you can, and just use that helmet. And that's pretty much all. I'll go over the gems. We have elemental damage with attacks. We have added cold, Mirage Archer, greater multiple projectiles, tornado shot, and that's our 5 link with that's our damage setup. That's our AoE clear and our single target. We have portal. This is a huge quality of life. I would definitely get a portal gem and get some quality on it. The more quality it has, the more cast speed you can cast it. And I also have it linked to faster attacks to make it even faster. Then we have blink arrow. Blink arrow is used to get over terrain, so if there's any hills you can't get over, anything you can't really walk over, you can maybe use this to get over a hill or whatever. This is the get up and around terrain, and we connect this to faster attacks to make it faster. Over here we have Herald of Ice, and we have what's connected to Herald of Ice. We have Curse on Hit and Assassin's Mark. And Assassin's Mark gives us power charges, so every time we're killing enemies, the Herald of Ice is spreading the curse with Curse on Hit, and it's spreading Assassin's Mark. And what happens with Assassin's Mark is it gives us power charges. So we get power charges from Herald of Ice and Curse on Hit, and all these three connected gives us power charges. Then we have Haste. This gives us movement speed. Like I was saying before, movement speed is very, very important for this build. The more movement speed you have, the more item quantity you have, the more currency you're going to be gaining on this build. So this gives us attack speed and it gives us movement speed. Very, very nice for the build. Over here, like I was saying about projectiles, projectiles are very, very important for tornado shot. Very, very important. It increases your clear speed and increases your AoE clear. Is very, very nice. So right here we have a Dying Sun, which increases your projectiles by 2. It's very, very good, and it gives us some resistance. Very, very good flask for the build. Over here we have Stibnite with immunity to curse. Immunity to curse is very, very good because it makes it so we could run more map mods. The less currency we're spending on maps, the better. Because we want to be spending as little currency as possible and making as much currency as possible. That's the whole point of the build. So I have that on a Stibnite because Stibnite doesn't take that many charges, so we can use it a lot more. But honestly, with the Pathfinder, I wouldn't really worry about it. You should always have your flask up because you get a lot of flask gain when you kill monsters with the Pathfinder. Pathfinder is pretty much a flask ascendancy, so you'll be getting your flask very quickly, your flask charges very quickly with Pathfinder. Also, this build is very fast, so I wouldn't really worry about not having these charges. So immunity to curse on the flask is very important. We always have this up. Over here we have Diamond Flask. is very important too, because we are a crit build. Our crit percent is around 50%, but with the diamond flask it goes up from 50% to 20%. So this gives us a lot of crit chance. This is very, very good for the build, and we also have immunity to bleed, which is very, very good. And over here we have a Jade Flask. This is for the Queen of the Forest. The more evasion we have, the more movement speed we get from the Queen of the Forest. This helps us cap out our evasion for Queen of the Forest, which is 45,000 evasion. And this is just a good flask for the Queen of the Forest. Over here is just a plain movement speed flask. Very, very good. And then it's a movement speed flask, and it has movement speed rolled on it, but not only, it has the increased effect of movement speed. So I would get this exact movement speed flask. This flask is very, very, very good and very important for the build. So get increased effect, and that increased effect on the flask increases the movement speed roll that's already on the flask. So it's just a lot of movement speed. Trust me, definitely get this version of the movement speed flask if you're going to get a movement speed flask. I would definitely get this version. Now I'm going to talk about the skill tree a little bit. It's pretty skill tree is pretty self-explanatory. I'm just going to go over a few important things, and then I'm going to go over the skill tree really quick and go over the ascendancy really quick. So the most important things in this skill tree are onslaught. This gives us 10% chance to gain onslaught if we kill enemies. So while we're speeding through the map killing tons of enemies, this is giving us onslaught, and onslaught is very important for the build. It gives us movement speed and it gives us attack speed. The more movement speed we have, the faster we farm the maps, the faster we can grind some more currency. So this onslaught is very, very good. Pretty much you only need this node for onslaught. You can add more if you want, but you don't really need anything other than this node to gain permanent onslaught in the map with this build, because this build already runs so fast. Then we have Inspired Learning. Inspired Learning is really good. It steals mods away from the rare mod, like the... Oh my god, I'm getting a little tongue twisted, sorry about that. It steals mods away from the rare monsters in the map. So when you kill a rare monster, they have mods. Some are defensively, some are offensively, and some make them run faster. So you'll be getting it's like random buffs in the map. It just helps you. It makes your character stronger while you're clearing the map. It makes your character faster while you're clearing the map. It's just an all-around very, very good jewel to have in the build. And how it works is you need 4 notables. So these are little small nodes, and you need the big nodes. So these are the small nodes, this is the big node. So you only need 4. We have more than 4. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but all you need is 4 for the jewel to work. You need to have them spec'd into the tree for the jewel to work, and it needs to be in the radius of the jewel. The circle is the radius of the jewel, and it has to, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's in the radius of the jewel, then the jewel will work. You will see buffs on the top of your screen over here, and you'll know when it works. Trust me. You know, I don't think you guys are that stupid. And another important thing is Pierce. Projectiles Pierce. This is very, very important for the build. This is night and day difference. Tornado Shot needs something to pierce through. And so we have 2 pierce here, and we have 1 pierce here. Very, very important for the build. This is like mandatory. This is mandatory for the build. Very important. And that pretty much covers the most important things about it. Everything else is pretty generic. It's just movement speed here. It's just movement speed and damage here. There's crit here, elemental damage and elemental penetration, because we do mostly cold damage. So we have cold penetration here. Life, more movement speed and evasion. We have movement speed and damage over here. We have crit over here for the bow. We have more elemental damage because we do mostly cold damage. There's life over here. We have accuracy and attack speed over here. We have more crit here. We have resistances over here. Over here is life, and over here is movement speed and life. And over here is attack speed. I think it's attack speed, crit, and movement speed over here. So a lot of movement speed in the build because we want to go very fast. And here's life and evasion over here, more damage, more elemental damage. And here is more life here. And here's more movement speed. And here's resistance and life. Here's crit. Here's life. And here's more attack speed. So it's pretty basic stuff. I'm just gonna go over here and let you guys zoom up on the tree, let you guys look at the tree so you can copy it. I'll go through it really quickly. Just pause the video and copy the build while I'm going through it. I'll just do a couple of quick pauses so you can copy the build while it's zoomed up, and then I'll go back and let you, just so you have a lot of chances to pause the build in certain areas and copy the build tree. I'll probably put a paste bin if you guys want that too in the build on the bottom of the video. Now I'm going to go over the Ascendancy. This is the most important node. Master of Alchemists is the most important node for this build, and I would definitely go for this first. This is probably the most mandatory node in the Ascendancy. Then I would probably go for this, because this gives you a lot of damage, a lot of flash charges. Very, very good. Master of Alchemists is so important because it gives us chance to freeze, which helps with our Windripper bow. The more enemies we freeze, the more item quantity we get from that bow, because we only get the item quantity from the bow if we have a lot of chance to freeze. So we have a bunch of chance to freeze here, and we have chance to freeze in the build. So there's a bunch of chance to freeze. So we're always, and our build is mostly cold damage, so we're just freezing. We're just freezing everything, and also we crit and we do cold damage, so we're freezing. We're freezing all the time. And this node also helps it so you don't have to put immunity to freeze on your flask, because you're immune to ailments. So that means you're immune to shock, ignite, being frozen, chilled. You're immune to all of that if you're using a flask. This node is very important. And this node is probably the last node I would get for Uber Lab. And this one just is pretty self-explanatory. It just gives you attack speed, gives you movement speed. It's very, very good for the build, you know. But if you can't get your Uber Lab, I mean, I would get your Uber Lab done. But if you can't get your Uber Lab done, this is probably the last thing I would get for the build, because this is not the most important thing. This will help you gain your... It's honestly up to you what you want to get, because this will give you movement speed and attack speed. This gives you damage and helps you with your flash charges. Make sure your flasks are always up when you're killing enemies. So it's really up to you, but this is definitely mandatory. Master of Alchemists is definitely mandatory. So this and this going to this is definitely mandatory for the build. And I would advise you to get this second and this third, probably this last. But that's about it, guys. If you guys got any questions, just leave a comment below and I'll try to help you the best I can. If I missed anything, let me know. And I hope you guys enjoy this build, because I really like this build a lot. This is one of my favorite builds to play. I played this build in multiple leagues. It's made me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of exalts in multiple leagues. And this build is definitely a good build if you want to gain a lot of currency. I hope you guys enjoy. See you later. Have a good day.